Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Wednesday. I'm the Grace Strega, and I'm here to give you your daily collective read for today, Wednesday, July 17th, 2024. What do we have coming through in the cards for today? May I please have the first 5 cards in our 5-card spread? First card, we are starting our day off with today. This card may look familiar. We had it in our last reading. We have here our 10 of Cups in its reversal. A lot of working through external frustrations right now. A lot of this work potentially coming through in the realms of doubting one's own self, doubting one's own pathwork, anxieties and fears that are potentially coming to the surface. I gotta say right now, better out than in is all I have to say with energy like this, because the expression point, the being able to articulate upon this, that ability of recognizing what feels like it's moving you out of alignment, that's how we facilitate and operate in a way that we can get back on the pathwork. So we see even now for masculine and feminine energy, moving deep within the divine union frequency, a lot of this work might not necessarily even be in maintaining one's own pathwork, but also trying to serve as catalyst in helping others potentially in the realm of interpersonal relationships navigate their own trajectory going forward. Specifically because we see even now a lot of the energy deep within the divine union is trying to walk that energetic path of being able to lend assistance, being able to lend advice, being able to lend support, but also recognizing and identifying that when you do that type of work, it's very hard because it's that moment that you can't become overly prescriptive in relationality to what serves one's own self or what has worked best for your own path work, but almost helping someone else navigate their own hurdles. That's almost like that discovery point in helping someone recognize their higher passion, their higher purpose, their long-term projected goals or aspirations. Masculine and feminine doing this work right now, that ability of recognizing and trying to do so, but not in a way that feels like it is negatively or detrimentally impacting those around you. We see even now there's a lot of that energy that is working. It feels like they're working across multiple planes, because that's that modality of almost recognizing that even as you're going through your own hurdles, trying to help others along the way, it can feel very overwhelming. And we even saw that some of the energy right now in the divine union, having to navigate some feelings of frustration or anxiety or exhaustion, particularly in the realms of what is happening in the future. That is something that the ability of recognizing that you're not necessarily alone in that context. Well, sometimes that's how we can effectively build an energetic bridge, even in the midst of what may feel like something that is less than positive that we are navigating through. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming into divine union, a lot of this work that we see right now has to do with the desire of wanting to make changes potentially in the relationship itself, but without knocking over the apple cart in terms of what you've already created between you and an effective counterpart. Why are we effectively seeing this right now? Because we recognize that for a lot of the energy right now coming into divine union, that sense of change, bringing about change into a circumstance or situation. This is not energy that's trying to change in order to facilitate an energetic change in what they feel with the counterpart, but rather this is energy that is doing a lot of work in terms of trying to preserve the energetic connection, even in the midst of those changes. That's that movement of making a change because it feels like it is inevitable. So even here, if there's like a resistance point to it, it's because the energy is trying to figure out a way of doing so in a way that does not impact what they currently have. So that is, again, I want to describe it. It's like I use the analogy of like trying to build a ship as you're on the sea with it, right? You're trying to make adjustments to it, but you're also trying not to do anything in such an impactful way that you damage what is you currently have. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, in separation, this is why I was articulating the other day how viable and important it is not to take it energetically personally right now if there's something occurring that feels like there is distance between you and new energetic connections. Why? Because we see even now a lot of the energy navigating and going through those personal feelings of overwhelm. That's the difference, even in separation right now, of moving towards energy that if you're going through your own experiences that feel like they're overwhelming, someone not taking it personally or almost having that ability of, again, compassion, not jumping to conclusions, not taking that personally and recognizing that there's something more broad that is occurring. a lot of the energy in that modality right now, even here, that feels like having to navigate one's own doubts and fears, even in the midst of potentially starting new energetic connections. But what do we see that the energy in separation is doing right now? Potentially building bridges through a point of catharsis, sharing in those energetic journeys, sharing in those experiences. And even here, we see that a lot of the energy in separation is almost moving or working in that fragile line of not wanting to feel like they're overly complaining or coming through in a space that they feel like they're energetically exhausted, but trying to keep like a positive vibration even in the face of energy that feels like it's overwhelming. That can be a real hurdle right now. Second card in our 5-card spread for today is we're pulling a lot of the same cards that we saw last reading. So we've got 2 of the same cards that we had in our last reading. The combination here of our 10 of Cups in its reversal in combination with our Wheel of Fortune in its reversal. I'm going to say it again. I've been saying it for several days, but the consistency is a part of the message. Now is not a time to jump to conclusions as it relates to what you're potentially experiencing, particularly in the realms of distance, quietude, blockages here. Why? Because we see even now energetically a lot of the energy in separation going through situations and circumstances that don't even necessarily have anything to do with energetic connection. Just trying to navigate the day-to-day right now may be having such an impact on some of the energy and separation that it is creating frustrations. It is creating delays. And what is really valuable and important right now for a lot of the energy and separation is recognizing and coming towards those spaces with a sense of discernment, recognizing and having a bit of that energetic compassion in what feels like it is a practical hurdle. Not overly internalizing an external situation, but being able to navigate it much like you would desire another were to navigate it were it occurring towards you. We see even now that is the energy in separation, that if they're building into new energetic connections, that is getting over some of those hurdles. That is getting over some of those blockages, because we see here, even in the energy that is in separation, there is almost that need to assist others around you at this time that may be calling your attention away from what may be feeling like a valuable or vital new potential connection. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, coming into divine union, this is more of that same energy that we see that feels like such a struggle point. And I can see here that for a lot of the energy coming into divine union right now, one of the hurdles that is happening is, even if this is energy that has moved into a deepening commitment in the past in this modality, this is where some of that change energy occurs. Because if these were energies that in the past would have moved into a deepening of an energetic commitment for the hope, for the aspiration of changing what they feel between them and a counterpart, well, suddenly that's that moment that feels like you're doing something again for the first time, because this is the energy that's almost feeling that sense of not doing something in the same way, because this is not energy that is I keep saying this is not energy that is trying to change what they feel between them and a counterpart. This is the energy that's trying to preserve that strong energetic connection, almost having to make those changes, moving into that inevitability point, but also not wanting to do so at risk of affecting or harming that energetic connection. It's slow, precise work. I want to say it almost feels like it's surgical to a certain extent, because it requires a lot of fine tuning. It requires a lot of calibration, and that type of work cannot be rushed. In fact, we see even now, this is energy that may even be extending the timeline on that, because they recognize and register that what they feel between them and the counterpart isn't something that is like largely impacted by those changes. They feel more like they're making those changes to be able to remove the blockages, to remove the externalized frustrations. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, deep within the divine union frequency, this is more of that feeling of frustration that may be coming into play here, because a lot of the energy right now deep within the divine union frequency, it's not that things aren't moving in the direction that you yourself may aspire and desire them to be. A lot of this has to do with that feeling of frustration as it relates to how much time it is taking in order to do so. A lot of this energy we see even now is working on navigating a lot of the externalized issues in relationality to their manifestation goals. So if there's that moment, a lot of this work that we see that the energy deep within the divine union is doing right now is having to exert a certain level or degree of patience around circumstances or situations. And that ability of doing so, not allowing oneself to get frustrated, not again in over internalizing the external problems. How is the energy within that frequency assisting one another by sharing that mutual feeling of frustration around those energetic hurdles? Third card in our 5-card spread for today. 2 cards coming out. We have here King of Swords in its reversal in combination with our King of Cups in its reversal. A lot of heavy energy right now, specifically towards masculine. Bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. For masculine energy right now, this is, and I need to stress this could even be a lot of masculine energy that is going through energetic hurdles with other masculine energy, particularly in the realms of the energy deep within the divine union frequency. Because what we're effectively seeing here right now is a lot of that sensation of frustration. It has to do potentially with a lot of the vulnerability that is coming to the surface right now across all of the frequencies. I mentioned this. Cancer season can be extremely emotional, right? Cancer season, I like to describe it as almost like the inside coming outwards. It's like having to shed the exoskeleton so that that new exoskeleton can form. But that vulnerability, that pathwork of vulnerability, this could be, again, a lot of that realm of having very delicate, emotional, heart-to-heart conversations. And what happens in that modality, particularly for masculine, is, how do I explain this? So masculine energy, moving in that modality, trying to remain energetically soft at a moment that one's own reactivity feels like it's being triggered. This is the energy that is almost forcing themselves to have those vulnerable conversations, but not just having a vulnerable conversation, but doing one's best to kind of set the energetic frequency in the room around such conversations to almost help other masculine energy recognize that it's safe to also be in that vulnerability point. Right? And that is very delicate stuff, because that is almost like that calibration that if you see someone coming towards you from a state of anger or frustration or fear, it almost I want to describe this energy a little bit for masculine. It's kind of like the similarity of having to take what may feel like someone sticking you with something, and then doing everything you can to just gently pull out that blade, if you will, and not come into that volatility or reactivity, that feeling that sensitivity may arise or arouse. So we see even now that this is either the masculine energy that is unpacking experiences with past connections to masculine. This could even be some father wound kind of stuff that's coming to the surface here, that is either leading to the connectivity point of having very vulnerable conversations with other masculine energy, or effectively helping masculine energy outside the divine union frequency navigate their own feelings of vulnerability as they go. It's delicate stuff. It requires that level or degree of gentleness. The effect or the ability of the feminine to help in this modality right now, this is why we see even now, I want to say, if these are situations and circumstances where that is occurring, this may be feminine energy that may be putting themselves at a little bit more of that energetic distance, if you will, because a lot of that is almost that care that is coming into play as it relates to circumstances. Feminine seeing that sensitivity towards masculine and wanting to be very energetically gentle with it. Right? When you see someone in a point of vulnerability, that's almost that moment that requires a point of compassion. This could even be feminine energy working through and articulating with masculine the need or desire of the feminine to be able to lend support in some of these modalities right now, but almost feeling to a certain extent the ineffable nature of their own energetic frequency, making it hard for them to be able to amplify and articulate something in the way that another masculine energy might be able. Bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. This could also be a lot of the feminine energy right now, navigating the vulnerability of some masculine energy, not just towards their counterpart energy, but also I told you, a lot of that work in interpersonal relationships that's occurring right now for feminine energy. So that same delicacy may be almost being navigated by articulating their own connection to masculine energy in such a way that, again, they're able to lend a support towards energy that's coming towards them in this way, but albeit at a bit of an energetic distance. While for masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union right now, this is why some of this energy that is moving into a deepening energetic connection, this is why some of this may feel like a deep breakthrough right now, but a very deep emotional breakthrough for some of the masculine energy. Because if this is the masculine energy that is feeling that vulnerability for the first time towards feminine, that is that moment of the masculine that, again, it creates that sense, and this may be a lot of the work that the masculine is doing right now in relationality to opening one's own heart space. Because if this is the masculine energy that is allowing for that vulnerability to open up, the ability to feel the safety and security of building into a connection with feminine, that creates a feeling of preciousness. That creates a feeling of vitality. And often what can happen for masculine energy that comes into this modality is at the moment that one feels the expansion point of love, at the moment that one feels the vulnerability of authentically feeling what one's feeling, what one also does, it's like you recognize that you can't separate the emotionality of that the love comes with it a certain sense of anxiety, a certain sense of fear. And we see even now that a lot of the masculine energy moving into that vibration, it's almost like, I want to say it, almost like a lot of the masculine energy in this modality, it feels like you're coming to life again. It may feel like that a heightened sensitivity, if you will, because this is the modality that we see a lot of the energy coming into divine union, potentially feeling something that they may have felt previously in the past. But the important thing that's happening in these modalities is this is not masculine energy that is allowing the ego to run you in the opposite direction of what it is that you truly desire. This is the masculine energy that's almost coming to the acceptance point of the full energetic feeling that of, I want to say, love, that also carries with it the burden of fear. Being able to almost embrace both of those modalities at the same time. This may feel like a lot of heart opening on the part of the masculine, but I have to say, this is sensitive stuff. It can feel very overwhelming. Make sure you're grounding right now, make sure you're drinking your water. For feminine energy, again, feeling and seeing the masculine coming into divine union in expression of this, that is that moment that, and I need to say this is a bit of a different effect that may happen to feminine. Because if this is a feminine that is seeing a side of masculine that they haven't seen before, what does the feminine energy have to do in that modality? They suddenly have to recalibrate everything that they may have potentially experienced with masculine energy in the past, bearing in mind the connectivity point in feeling and seeing the authenticity and honesty of the masculine moving in this modality. That same sense of, like, I want to say that same sense of compassion, that same sense of feeling and seeing the emotionality of the masculine in that modality, it creates a center or space of resiliency in feminine coming into divine union, because that is the feminine energy that recognizes the difference in what they may be feeling presently with the connection of masculine. As I said, not feeling the need or the hope that changing the dynamic of a relationship to change the energetic connection. This is the energy of the feminine that is feeling the authenticity of what is offered from a place of honesty, and vulnerability, that can kind of feel like that feminine energy, again, feeling and sharing the same modality, but also coming into that state or space of doing everything they can to energetically protect the masculine, because this can also arise in the feminine, those anxieties and the fears of seeing masculine that may have come into that modality close to feminine before, but instead the masculine running from that energetic feeling instead of being able to embrace it. While for masculine and feminine energy, but what do we see for a lot of the energy coming into divine union right now? building a bridge with that vulnerability, allowing for that. That's almost like that unclenching of the hand, if you see, that extension of the arm that almost allows for that to become the deepening of an energetic connection. While for masculine and feminine energy in separation right now, I have to say, even here, I would not be surprised if there's a little bit of quietude that's occurring right now for energy and separation. Because if this is occurring to such a large degree right now in the energetic frequencies, this is a lot of energy and separation that may be navigating a lot of interpersonal relationships, or even like familial or circumstantial situations that are almost requiring their full time effort and energy. This is why we see, I'm going to say it again, not jumping into that pathwork of assumption, not taking any of that distance energetically, personally, but almost just allowing for that vector of time to kind of bring someone into that space where they might be ready to talk about it. We see even now for masculine, there may be a lot of emotionality that's opening up right now. This could even be a lot of masculine energy that feels like they need to kind of come to the aid and support of other masculine energy at this time, which is why we see that a lot of the energetic compassion that may be being received right now for energy and separation is, again, holding that energetic distance, allowing time to be the vector about whether you're experiencing something feels like it's consistent or not, but also having like that level or degree of compassion coming into play. For masculine, there could even be that moment of, I want to say, in separation, that feeling of potentially having like overextended oneself that may require a little bit of that like easement point here. So we see even now, this could be a lot of the masculine energy trying to articulate upon that feeling of, again, not being able to inhabit as much of the space as they would ideally desire right now, that may require a little bit of delay as it relates to new energetic connections. For feminine, that is that moment that can feel very amplifying and triggering if you're experiencing it in separation, because there's that anxiety if these are new energetic connections forming, if these are authentic like reasons, if there are authentic moments that are happening right now, because that can feel very triggering to feminine. But what do we see is happening at this time for feminine? Being able to navigate that with, again, not taking something energetically personally, but not overgiving in those same modalities right now. We almost see that that's becoming that state or space of feminine, of coming very much into themselves and grounding, and again, lending energetic support, but not overgiving in the process. Third card in our 5-card spread for today is, this is that vulnerability moving between Cancer to Leo season is what we really have happening here. And a lot of this is the extension, like a lot of energy overworking themselves between these two Cancer full moons is what I'm really seeing here. Fourth card in our 5-card spread for today is, again, this I'm getting here a lot of masculine energy and separation, almost going to feminine, going, don't go anywhere. Like, don't go anywhere. I just need a minute. It's a little bit of that kind of energy is what we're seeing right now for masculine, because I just keep seeing that for a lot of that masculine energy right now, that ability of almost trying to have to build into some kind of vector and separation where we see or experience that there's some kind of energy that's almost in need, or that needs you, if you will, that's like kind of like you kind of coming into the support of some other energetic frequency. I almost see a lot of the energy and separation coming into that mode of apology towards feminine at this time, but also at the same time, and I want to stress this, amplifying the difference between something that, like, I want to say never energetically happens versus something that always energetically happens, right? And I can almost see a lot of the energy of the masculine, like coming into that state or space of trying to articulate to feminine in separation and being like, look, I'm not typically I'm not typically in this modality of having to change something or having to pause something, but there's something that I'm trying to do right now that's kind of requiring or calling my full support and attention. What's hard about this, and I'm seeing, if these are new energetic connections that are starting to pick up, this could even be a masculine that's not necessarily overly articulating upon what those are for the sake of the description of the masculine energy that they're coming to the aid and support of in this moment. So we see even now, I told you, a little bit more of that like difficulty in relationality to the masculine, trying to amplify to the feminine. And I want to say even now, not trying to overpromise to the feminine, trying to come from a point of clarity and openness, while also navigating external circumstances and situations that require a little bit more of that energetic support. Either this is the masculine that feels like they're kind of out of spoons, if you will, that needs to have a little bit of that like energetic recovery time because there's a little bit of that emotional or spiritual overexertion that's happening here. Or this is masculine energy that is feeling like they need to come to the aid of another. While for feminine energy, navigating those modalities, this is why introspection and openness is so viable and important at this time. Because I'm seeing here that a lot of the feminine energy in separation would always understand if energy needs to come to the aid of another or needs to be moving in that modality where they need to prioritize being able to come to that point of energetic support. So we see even now that a lot of that energy navigating in separation may be one that feels like a sense of patience. But even here, we see that a lot of the spark that may be building in some of these connections is that sense of patience. In that sense, is that sense of recognizing and seeing someone that doesn't take something energetically personally, but almost is in that modality of observation. Even here, we see that there's like almost a level or degree of preciousness that may be occurring right now, because that is the energy of the feminine that's almost saying to the masculine, like, you know, and I see it even here, the feminine almost saying like, take your time, but also not trying to overgive to a situation or circumstance wherein they're just building an energetic connection. So that's like, I want to say, it's like the patience that requires an ability to recognize the difference between something that is happening immediately or something that is happening consistently. So we see even now that for a lot of the feminine energy in separation right now, that is almost that modality that recognizes that sense of being able to have to put something off, but then immediately being able to deliver like that other point of consistency, as opposed to the masculine that's kind of in that vibration of trying to recognize if that's a masculine that's kind of always in that modality. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming into divine union, this is a lot of that beautiful building of a bridge in a moment of vulnerability. And the situation here, I need to stress, is that it's having a different impact on masculine and feminine. That heart opening, that coming into vulnerability for masculine, that is that moment of the masculine almost saying to the feminine as they move into a deepening of connection, that desire to change something. It isn't contingent on the change. That's almost the masculine putting changes into play, trying to say to feminine, I want to preserve what we have at all costs. I want to stabilize and solidify this as much as I am able, but at the same time trying to move in a vector of not trying to destabilize in the process of making those energetic changes. So again, it's requiring that level or degree of patience, if you will, because even here we see that this is energy that is going through those changes. It's not requiring those changes to occur, but almost building into the sense of timing. While for feminine energy, seeing and experiencing a masculine that is like, I want to say, firming something up at a moment that they're feeling energetically vulnerable. This is the feminine that almost feels like that true capacity of love coming through, because this is the feminine energy that again sees and feels the expression of that love from the masculine. They don't doubt it. And if this is feminine energy that in the past may have felt like they were moving deeper into a commitment with the hope that the energy would change, but is suddenly seeing that same sense of patience within their own self because they know and they feel the energy or the love of the masculine, that changes their energetic perspective in relationality to anything that they may have experienced prior. So we see in a way that that's a feminine energy that's like working in that capacity point of healing and feeling that expression of love, while also feeling a lot of that like that resiliency in terms of solidifying how they feel about past experiences in the process. Masculine and feminine deep within the divine union frequency right now, a lot of this work may be navigating hurdles and blockages that you may be feeling or encountering or experiencing with energy outside of the divine union frequency. And we see even here that one of the hurdles that may be coming into play here is if these are hurdles that you're both equally experiencing. The big difficulty or change here may be the fact that feminine has one perspective in relationality to how to navigate some of those interpersonal issues, while masculine may have a very different one. We saw that coming into play over the last few days. So we see even now, and this could even be a lot of the energy between masculine and feminine, almost saying, well, that's very easy for you to say because you're inhabiting the masculine modality, right? Though that's almost a lot of that work in terms of helping one another see something from their own personal perspective that builds that sense of clarity, but also can feel a little bit frustrating because that's almost that moment that the guidance of the counterpart, you can inhabit it. You can recognize that it is real and true for them, but it might not necessarily feel like it jives perfectly for you, because we see even now that this is almost a masculine being like, I know exactly the solution to that situation. This is what I would do. And this is almost a feminine saying, well, yes, that's very easy for you to do in these situations because you are who you are and I am who I am. So we see even now that navigating those together, it's the gift of perception and the gift of clarity that almost helps each individual energy, even if these are counterparts, making the best choice that feels like you're guiding together, albeit in different ways. Fifth card in our 5-card spread for today is the Lover's card, and we love to see this card that is coming to the surface right now, because as we saw, for a lot of the energy right now, this frequency of love is kind of coming through across all of the frequencies, and that sense of compassion and that sense of patience, because we see even now, and I need to stress this, circumstances don't change individuals, they reveal individuals. So for energy that's in separation right now, energy that's in separation that is experiencing those outside hurdles that may be creating a little bit of that friction between what it is that you aspire and desire to do with a counterpart. It's not so much the hurdle itself, it's how it's being navigated. It's the openness, it's the honesty, it's the clarity. So what we almost see here right now, if this is a feminine energy that is experiencing masculine, that's going through something that's causing some kind of delay, but the masculine is articulating upon it at every moment, that's the feminine energy that feels the vitality of the connection with masculine. Because even in that modality of the masculine needing to make a change or having to step back or having to come into a point of apology, if the prioritization point that the masculine is putting towards it is like first and foremost the attentiveness to how it might impact the feminine, this is almost the feminine energy that's saying to masculine in separation, it's not your job to be energetically perfect. It's just your job to be honest. And so for feminine energy, even here, we see that feminine energy may be experiencing an energetic connection, new energetic connections with masculine that feel like they have changed because of the openness and honesty of the expression of what the masculine is going through. I want to say not trying to put like a false face on it, but just being very frank and direct to the feminine about what that experience is. Even here, that is the bridge that feels like it becomes built in a moment of difficulty or hardship. While for masculine and feminine, for masculine energy, that same vitality, this may feel very difficult for masculine, because if this is masculine that's approaching feminine for the first time and feels that desire of putting that like false face on, but then recognizes and says, no, I have to be honest, I have to be authentic, I have to let them know that this is something that's very valuable and important to me, that I really care about. This is the masculine that's almost coming to a space of or place of being as honest, as open as possible towards feminine. And what are they potentially experiencing and receiving in that modality? That same extension of honesty and openness and clarity. While for masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union right now, this is the energy that's just feeling that deepening of the energetic commitment, that feels like that sense of excitement. It feels like that sense of joy. It is being inhabited by different qualities and characteristics of the counterparts right now, but they're going through the same energetic journey, and it's bringing out different feelings. For the masculine, that feeling of authenticity, being able to be your most authentic, true sense of self. With the feminine, that is almost that feeling of coming home, if you will. So we see even now, like a lot of that masculine energy is feeling they're feeling the full expanse and positivity that comes into play when you start to feel that true expression of love. And if this is masculine energy that may have felt that in the past but run from it, that ability of just allowing oneself to inhabit and to hold space for both the excitement but also the anxiety, right? When we care about something and it is precious and important to us, we feel that expansion point in being able to hold space for it, but we also feel the volatility of how much we care about someone or something. That is that moment for a lot of the masculine energy. It feels a lot like that heart opening. For feminine, feeling and experiencing or being in the presence of a counterpart that's able to feel that full well of feelings, but not become reactive, not push away at that moment, just allowing themselves to articulate and inhabit that space. This changes the feminine's perception on anything that may have come before it that they did not receive in that same quality or characteristic. Because this is almost the feminine energy feeling like the full expanse of love with counterpart that is showing through the act of vulnerability that they are strong enough to hold on to love. While for masculine and feminine energy that is deep within the divine union frequency, this could be helping a lot of energy navigate their own interpersonal problems in relationality to love right now. I'm just seeing that to a certain extent because we see even now a lot of that work in helping, and particularly the masculine energy, I want to say. If this is masculine energy that has other masculine energy coming to advice towards them in the realms of relationship, like we see even now, that's a lot of the masculine energy having that difficulty point in trying to help masculine energy understand and recognize that it's not something that there's just like a certain direction that you can move into. It's something that you need to find within, right? So that comfortability point, even here, we see it may even be leading. I got to say this could be a lot of masculine energy in divine union, maybe experiencing some frustration points with energy that isn't in divine union, because I'm almost seeing here the sensitivity of the masculine looking towards the masculine, almost saying to masculine, it's easy for you to say you've inhabited that space, right? It's like that modality of saying like it's easier because you're there. This is almost a masculine energy saying to masculine in that modality, yeah, because I did the work to get there, right? Like it's almost like that moment of the masculine saying I did a lot of, like the masculine almost saying what did you do, and the masculine saying I did a lot of work on myself. I had to start from within. So we see even now that's either navigating the energy within divine union, navigating energy of masculine that may again be taking something energetically personally and having that difficulty of allowing for that point of compassion to come through. Or this is energy that is giving each other perspective in relationality to what they're experiencing while being in the divine union frequency. For getting clarification on these cards right now, between our 10 of Cups and its reversal, in combination with our Wheel of Fortune in its reversal, the card sliding out from the bottom, which we have to pull right now because it literally slid out, we've got here our 10 of Pentacles. How is the energy deep within the divine union navigating anything that feels like an external blockage, anything that feels like a frustration point? Is this the energy that's trying to match that modality? No, it's coming into a state or space of energetic compassion. It's coming into a state of recognition, because what is a lot of the energy potentially saying towards energy that's coming towards them in this vibration? This is a lot of energy almost recollecting spaces and places in the past where they themselves may have felt that way too, right? So this could even be a lot of the energy articulating upon their own experiences in that modality, right? And that's why we see here that a lot of the energy deep within the divine union frequency, not potentially trying to come into the modality of becoming overly prescriptive, saying, look, if you just do X, Y, and Z, everything will come out perfectly. This is almost the energy saying, you know, that the moment of that, the reason that breakthrough occurred was by letting go of that frustration, letting go of that bitterness, letting go of that volatility, right? So it's like, it's very hard when you're navigating a space where someone's holding on to something very tightly And they're almost like, I want to say, like, I almost see a lot of the energy right now having to navigate circumstances where someone's holding on to something very tightly and saying, like, what do I do with this? And the energy saying, just give more, let go, like, be more open, be more expressive, right? Because we see here, like, that's almost like, again, that energetic softening, if you will, that can sometimes feel counterintuitive. But the energy within the divine union frequency give that to one another. Like, and that's how they continue to build and maintain those energetic connections, by not taking the external personally, but just recognizing and registering and setting one's own priorities at that point. While for masculine, and it's hard because you can see how difficult this is, because this is the energy that may be feeling some of that volatility coming towards them and not trying to meet an energy in that space, but almost trying to have a level or degree of compassion as you encounter it. That can be hard, right? I told you, that's like kind of that feeling of someone, like, you know, taking a swing at you and you just kind of like, you know, just shaking it off and just being like, you know, and that's why we see even now that there may be a lot of these circumstances where I see a lot of the energy in divine union articulating and saying, you know, I wish I could give more here. I wish I could do more, but there's only so much I can do, because it's not a question of what one gives, it's how it will be energetically received. While for masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union right now, this is the energy, even if this is energy that has moved into deepening of commitments prior to this moment, this is why it feels different. Because this isn't energy that is making changes to connections because of dissatisfaction. There may be a lot of energy right now moving deeper into commitment that's recalling situations and circumstances where they were feeling dissatisfaction, and they thought that by potentially deepening an energetic commitment would solve the energetic dissatisfaction point. This is a lot of the energy that's having a bit of that breakthrough in recognizing that modality of coming into a change in relationship or a deepening of a commitment doesn't change the energy between you and the counterpart. It just amplifies what's there. This is energy that's effectively building closure and healing as they go, because this is the energy that's now able to look at those spaces and places wherein something was out of alignment, and they may even have been trying to put, you know, all that they could into it to try to correct it. That's the recognition point of understanding and recognizing how it feels when something feels right and you just proliferate it, as opposed to that feeling of having something that feels like it's wrong and you're doing everything in your capacity to try to change it. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, if in separation, this is why this is a bit more difficult territory, because there's a lot of the energy right now in separation that is allowing for a modicum of compassion and patience, but to a point. Why are we seeing that being but to a point? Because this is the energy that if there's a disruption point that's occurring, being able to navigate what may feel like a circumstance, a singular situation that may be creating a hurdle, as opposed to a situation where there may always be that energetic hurdle, right? That's like the masculine energy. I almost see the masculine energy almost saying to the feminine, this never happens. I'm sorry I have to do this. Versus, and the feminine being like, okay, I'm going to assume that that is true. I'm going to take your word for that is true, but I'm going to also allow my own sense of perception to start to kind of weigh in to give clarity here. We see for masculine, that is that moment of reaffirming an energetic commitment, especially if there's something that you have to pull back on, but then you're like saying like, I'm pulling back here, but I'm overgiving there. While for feminine, seeing that modality of the difference between a masculine that says, I can't here, but I'm overgiving here, that is the affirmation of a feminine, seeing the difference between a masculine that's like, you know, always kind of self-correcting, versus a masculine that has that ability to put forth and come into that modality, if you will, of adjustment. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Wheel of Fortune in its reversal, in combination with our King of Swords in its reversal, in combination with our King of Cups in its reversal. This is like, I gotta say, I have to stress right now, masculine energy, if you're feeling this emotional or internal blockage right now, I really want you taking time for yourself at this moment. Make sure that you're not overexerting yourself. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Three of Cups. I'm going to say right now, I feel like there's some energy of masculine right now that is feeling, I want to say, feeling the exhaustion point of potential overly commitment of their time, effort, and energy to situations and circumstances outside of the self. I'm just seeing that to a certain extent. And I think for a lot of the masculine energy in this modality right now, you know, when I have to stress this, when you're in these modalities where you're you know, there could be some masculine energy right now, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to, that's going through a lot of interpersonal things, potentially even with other masculine energy. And it's kind of like, I want to say it's like taking up a lot of their bandwidth. You know, like this is giving me a lot of energy of masculine that may feel like they're a little bit out of spoons right now. But what do we see? The energy of the masculine in that modality articulating and saying to feminine. This is almost a masculine, like articulating and saying, you know, if there's a need here to lend assistance or support to someone, this is masculine almost reaffirming their commitment to feminine and saying, this is not, don't take this energetically personally. This is not something that's personally happening towards you. This is something that is external to the circumstances or situations. That's why I said it was so important right now for the energy not to be moving into that modality of assumption. While we see that for the feminine right now, feminine is navigating those territories with a bit of energetic compassion, but also not overgiving, which is a lot of the work of the feminine in building emotional or energetic resiliency that is requiring a bit more of that wait and see approach, right? So I want to say that there's like potentially a little feminine energy here that's like I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt, right? I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt because that's the feminine energy that is not trying to become overly reactive if there's something there that's occurring that feels very similar to a situation or circumstance of the past. So a lot of the work of the feminine navigating that territory is almost requiring, it almost may feel energetically triggering because this is feminine energy that's trying to discern what may feel like an authentic, like something that is authentically happening versus situations and circumstances where they may have experienced or seen masculine, that this was reflection of masculine that wasn't able to navigate from a point of consistency, right? So this is a little bit of hairy energy that we're seeing here right now. Masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union. This is why having this modality right now, deepening an energetic connection, but not feeling that the energetic connection itself is changing with the deepening of the commitment. It almost feels like, it just feels natural. It feels inevitable. It's just that moment of solidifying what's already there. That ability of recognizing that is having a different impact on masculine and feminine. For masculine, this is almost that feeling. I want to say this is the energetic equivalent of masculine, like being like almost articulating to feminine and saying, I'm all in. This is everything I want. I am all in here. And for the feminine energy to feel or experience that from masculine coming into divine union, well, it suddenly gives a lot of clarity to any circumstances or situations where feminine energy felt that resistance point from masculine moving towards them in that modality. So we see even now that's why we see, if that's that moment of masculine, like feeling that that gentle softening, and feminine getting like a little bit more resistant, if you will, getting a little bit more like hard at potentially as it relates to circumstances and situations of the past. That's because a lot of the feminine energy experiencing that is building into a sense of closure around past circumstances and experiences because they're comparing them to what they're receiving from the masculine at present. And so that is almost the re-articulation of what they're building towards with masculine that suddenly gives clarity to anything that may have been experienced prior. While for masculine and feminine energy, deep within the divine union frequency right now, this is a lot of heart to heart energy. This is a lot of hug energy. This is a lot of energy of almost saying like that desire or that ability to like want to kind of stop the world and be with someone. Because a lot of this energy feels like outside of the connection itself is where all of the disharmony lives, if you will. So this is almost the energy that says to one another, like a lot of that desire or need to be able to come towards each other and feel that point of safety and security. That is that moment that, again, the frustration point that may be experienced in those modalities has more to do with trying to navigate everything that's happening externally outside it without it allowing you to impact what you're effectively giving in the energetic connection. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our King of Swords, our King of Cups in its reversal, in combination with our Eight of Cups in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Three of Wands in its reversal. Masculine and feminine energy right now, deep within the divine union frequency. I can almost see that a lot of energy within the frequency right now is articulating around circumstances or situations where I want to say it almost feels like the type of energy of like desiring or wishing that you could say something to someone, but feeling the anxiety about how it will be energetically received. Like we see it even here. You know, especially if this is masculine energy, like navigating other masculine energy that's feeling some of that like anxiety or feeling some of that fear, or even potentially taking something energetically personally. For masculine and feminine, both dealing with circumstances and situations of that variety or modality, you know, I see a lot of that energy within the frequency, like bouncing ideas off of each other or speaking towards one another in that way, because a lot of it is trying to get clarity on those situations, particularly in the realm of spaces or places where you feel like you want to ask something or articulate something, but you don't necessarily know how to. So we see that a lot of the gift that's happening within the frequency right now is helping someone have a different perspective on something, giving someone some insight or clarity that their particular modality may make it hard for them to recognize or see. You know, masculine, this may even be a lot of the masculine energy within the divine union, like taking a page out of the feminine's book, if you will, because we see even here that a lot of the masculine energy navigating those spaces or places and not becoming as reactive as they may have previously would have, almost saying to feminine, you know, I thought about how you might have handled it, and I decided to try to take that tactic. We almost see here that a lot of the energy in that modality, like that is that moment that builds that sense of like even a deepening connection, because that's that ability of saying, not only do I appreciate you, you know, for the reason that we're in alignment, but I also appreciate you because you're able to show me things that I myself might not be able to see as clearly. What masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union, a lot of that work coming into divine union right now has to do, I want to say, with a lot of closing out of energetic cycles. There's a lot of energy right now that is moving into divine union where even as that deepening of the energetic commitment is occurring, we're either seeing that that's either creating a sense of dysregulation or disappointment in energy outside of the union frequency itself. And that can feel like a little bit of an energetic hurdle. For masculine energy, I see even here, if this is masculine energy that is moving deeper into divine union, and there's energy around you that feels like they're frustrated and disappointed that you're doing so, this is a lot of the masculine energy feeling a little bit of that separateness in relationality to those energetic connections, simply because it's almost that modality of potentially seeing someone that's taking something that doesn't have anything to do with them energetically, personally, right? So we see even here like trying to navigate those spaces and places with a bit of compassion is almost kind of recalling or reminding them of modalities where they may have seen that or felt that within themselves when it occurred to another. While for masculine and feminine, and for feminine energy, moving in this modality, that ability of recognizing or feeling or experiencing something from a masculine that you haven't felt before, a lot of the feminine energy is building closure as it relates to connections from the past. But again, that's that pathwork of recognizing that the closure came going forward, not going backward, right? So it's almost like that sense of the feminine energy, like closing the chapter in relationality to some of those past experiences based on the recognition point of insight that they're receiving from masculine that's open in this modality, because it's helping to clarify or build their perspective in terms of what they experienced in the past. Masculine and feminine energy right now that is in separation. That's why I see even now there's a little bit of like, I want to say being able to communicate right now in separation is really important. Because what I'm really seeing is a lot of this energy is very much in the same modality. There's some anxiety and fear that's occurring. I don't necessarily see feminine kind of bridging that gap as it relates to any communication here. Because for a lot of the feminine energy, that wait and see approach, like they're almost looking towards masculine to try to recognize or amplify their own energetic commitment, especially if there's something here about like some kind of change or something that's kind of calling their attention away from something momentarily, right? Like that's the feminine energy almost employing that active energetic resilience to a certain extent, which is almost like expressive in like being patient, but having a limitation on that patience. Continuing to get clarification between our Eight of Cups in its reversal in combination with our Lover's card. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Three of Pentacles in its upright. Masculine and feminine energy in separation right now. If there's anything that feels like, and I have to say this, if there's anything that feels like there's an external hurdle that is occurring, being able to articulate through it, this is either building into a state or space right now of someone having a level and degree of patience towards something, simply because of how someone is navigating the hurdle. If these are experiences where feminine is experiencing a masculine that needs to recalibrate, but they're guiding them every step of the way. They're articulating everything that is happening. That is the feminine energy that almost even in that moment of feeling a hurdle is recognizing the prioritization of masculine and keeping the feminine energy aware of what is occurring. That even in that modality, this is almost energy that may be building into a connection at an inopportune time, but almost feeling like that's becoming the tie that binds, because it's not the fact that something difficult is occurring, but seeing how the masculine energy operates in that construct, seeing a masculine energy that prioritizes the energetic connection between a feminine, even in the midst of what feels like an energetic hurdle. Well, that's not a feminine energy that articulates and says the only way to be with me is if you prioritize me above every other thing. This is the feminine energy that says, I seek foundation with you by seeing that you recognize the priority of keeping me aware of what is occurring, of building that stability between us. Doesn't require the fact that everything needs to be energetically perfect. It requires that sense of prioritizing what is most important, particularly in the realms of just communicating clearly what is happening. For masculine, this may feel a little bit more energetically difficult right now in separation, because what we're effectively seeing here is a lot of the masculine energy. I feel like there's a lot of that work in terms of like not wanting to put your problems on others, like almost feeling that sense, again, that ego that almost speaks and says like, don't articulate this, like hold it within. So for a masculine energy right now that is doing something that feels oppositional to where the space that you would typically inhabit during a situation or circumstance, That, as I told you, that like softening of the grip, if you will, because you're recognizing and identifying that the more that you're able to be open and expressive to feminine, even if it's requiring some adjustments or changes at this moment, you're potentially finding that the feminine is meeting you at that same adaptability point. Because as I mentioned, these are energies that are almost saying to one another, I appreciate that even when things are inconsistent, because we can't prevent anything from being perfectly consistent. There's always that curveball. That the first thing that you jump to do is articulate what that curveball is. So we see even now there's a lot of this energy. I have to say, it's in the midst of something that may feel like a problem, but the problem is actually potentially reaffirming a lot of these energetic connections, because it's almost seeing how someone operates in the midst of what may feel like it is a difficulty point, that is almost feeling that sense of groundedness at a moment that in the past may have created a moment of volatility because you weren't necessarily having that same level or degree of openness in the process. While for masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union, this same energetic quality is what is closing out a lot of those cycles from the past. Because if there were spaces or places of uncertainty, if there were things that the feminine experienced from past masculine energy that didn't create that moment of being able to speak or express it, right? That masculine that became too resilient, that created that distance, or the feminine energy that felt like, that modality of a masculine that never felt like they were coming towards them, like from a point of like openness and clarity. For a feminine to receive that in that moment from a masculine that's almost saying like, I'm not trying to change what's energetically between us. I'm in fact worried about moving deeper into commitment because this is so important. This is almost the energy of the feminine that immediately builds closure on past cycles, because they're in the modality of experiencing what the true frequency, what that true energetic frequency feels like what that feeling of openness and stability is. And it doesn't require you to be energetically perfect. It just feels like you're very much inhabiting the same experience together. So a lot of the energy right now, what they're recognizing is that movement into the deepening of an energetic union. It's almost like, again, it's just adding stability to what's already emotionally or spiritually there. While for masculine and feminine energy that is deep within the divine union, this is potentially navigating any of those feelings of frustration that you may be feeling are coming towards you from energy that doesn't understand where you personally are at this time. This is why we see even now, if there is that modality of someone coming towards the energy in divine union, but then also feeling that resistance point or that frustration, this is again the energy that's almost trying to articulate and say a lot of the path work that led them to come into that modality was not by taking things energetically personally, by having that act or that point of compassion. So we see even now that a lot of the energy in that modality, it may feel a little frustrating because it's almost like seeing someone else's energetic blockage, but again, not wanting to be prescriptive. And what is that energy doing? They're sharing it between themselves. They're working through it together, and they're trying to identify and articulate like what can be done to help mollify or modify that, but in a way that helps someone find their own energetic path. Continuing to get clarity on these cards right now between our Six of Pentacles in combination with our Three of Cups. Clarification coming through right now with our Hierophants. So a lot of this work that we're seeing right now is, and I'm not surprised to see it. I told you we're between these double Capricorn full moons right now. There's a lot of work right now in relationality to commitment. There's a lot of work right now in relationality to the direction that we're moving in. A masculine and feminine energy right now, deep within the divine union frequency. This is the energy that recognizes and identifies that if there's any feeling of overwhelm right now, it is focused on, again, having that amplification of wanting to be in more places at once, of trying to do everything that one can. So even here, a lot of that energetic discernment that we see within the divine union is trying to work very hard about where one is putting one's time, effort, and energy. It feels like a bit of a balancing act, if you will. So a lot of that work is like helping one another utilize and recognize how best to use the time that you have, both the time with one another, but also the time outside of the times and spaces that you're together. So we see even now, like a lot of that energy is almost like in that, and this is why we may see so much of that energetic frustration right now. This is a lot of the energy deep within the divine union that feels the anxiety point of not wanting to waste any of their energetic time, trying to find what feels like really trying to like figure out like what feels like it creates the most positivity. And a lot of that's like, I want to say, it's like almost that it's like, it's reminding me of like that scene from like I Love Lucy, where like the donuts are like coming down the conveyor belt, and they start coming too fast. Like a lot of that work is almost reaffirming to one another and saying all you can do is everything you can do. Do everything you can and try to stay committed to that, and recognize that the energy that is willing, that is able to like facilitate, and that you're able to work with, will understand that is the modality that you're kind of hailing from, right? So we see even now, like it's almost that sense of like saying to one another, like energetic like attracts like in that modality, and having that sense of energetic compassion that not only you are experiencing that, but those around you may be experiencing that. That's a bit of that grace that you give yourself, that in the process you immediately start to give to those around you. While for masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union, a lot of this is a lot of that deepening of the energetic commitment process. I see even now like a lot of this energy is moving into the deepening of an energetic commitment, but not only that, potentially even expressing and expounding upon that to those around them. This could even be the sense of like sharing news, if you will, or articulating what those plans are. And even in that modality, I told you some of that heaviness or that anxiety or fear that we saw was coming up even over the last few days, was that recognition point, like a little bit of that deep introspective work of like crossing the Rubicon, if you will, right? And it's okay if you're moving into something that like you care about, that you feel those anxieties and those fears rise up, because that's that modality that you almost recognize and understand that you take something very seriously, that you're not doing something on a lark, that you're fully absorbing like the full expanse of like what that determinative point is. So we see even now, like that's that energetic commitment. And again, if these are energies that if they saw it bringing out different qualities and characteristics in the counterpart, but instead of taking it personally, navigated it with a sense of introspective and curiosity, that's that moment that almost deepened the energetic commitment, as it were. So that's the energy that even in that modality of anxiety, the anxiety expressed in a way that feels like it's open is the reflection of love. So we see even now, like there's a lot of the energy right now that's like overcome their own egos to a certain extent, that's allowing them that ability to truly feel like they're moving into that deepening sense of vulnerability with another energetic counterpart. And that's that moment that for both masculine and feminine feels like that cause for celebration. While for masculine and feminine energy right now in separation, this is a little bit more, and it's having a different impact depending on whether you align to masculine or feminine. Bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. A bit more of that wait and see characteristic and quality. Because there's a lot of energy right now, I have to say, if this is energy of feminine that is seeing a masculine that's trying to come towards them, and even if in the moment that there's like these energetic hurdles that are occurring that are creating those blockage points, but even in the moment of experience those blockage points, masculine is doing everything they can to be clear and open to feminine about what is effectively happening. That is the feminine energy that already even then feels like some of their manifestation goals are coming to the surface, because this is a feminine energy that's seeing the expression of not requiring something to be energetically perfect in order to facilitate a partnership, but recognizing a masculine whose priorities are not towards outside energy, but towards what they're trying to build to feminine, and being as clear as possible, giving all aspects of what is happening around them. It's almost like the hurdle is giving the feminine deeper understanding of the energy around the masculine at the time of coming into potentially coming at the time of first experiencing one another, that makes the feminine energy feel the full modality of the masculine coming from a place of authenticity, because this isn't the masculine energy that's like masking that. That's a masculine energy that's almost coming into that space of like articulating and revealing even more about themselves in the process. While for masculine energy, this feels a little bit difficult, is what we're really seeing. For a lot of the masculine energy in this modality, you know, I feel like there's a lot of the masculine energy that's almost going to that work, putting that energetic effort in to try to affirm to the feminine, say, listen, I know that something about this may lead you to jump to conclusions as to why. Rest assured, I'm going to do everything possible to show you that your deepest fears here are not the case. In fact, I'm going to show you, like, as much as I can, exactly what is occurring, so that you have the full breadth of understanding that my commitment is towards what we're creating together, even in the sense of being able to articulate and explain and like answer your questions. You know, put those things forward, help you see and understand the full breadth of what I'm experiencing at this time. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now. For the energy deep within the divine union right now, this is just that feeling of, like, again, this is the like attracts like, and the understanding that those who understand will understand. And that's almost the energy within the divine union. It says if there's energy that takes something energetically personally, like, that's almost the expression point of recognizing like why there is that hurdle in the first place. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Six of Pentacles in combination with our Three of Wands and its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with Judgment. Masculine and feminine deep within the divine union frequency right now. You know, what's beautiful about this energy within this frequency is it's very focused on what feels right for them. It's very focused on what they identify or what they interpret feels like it's in alignment to what they've created together. So we see that a lot of the counterpart energy, what's beautiful about this is not only is the energy, you know, helping to give clarity on situations or circumstances where one or the other feels like they have a little bit of that lack of ability to see. But it's also that modality of leaving oneself like open and flexible to another person's perspective on something. This is the value point of the energy within divine union, because it allows an ability of feeling the security in terms of the decisions that you make, because those energies are making those decisions together. And it requires a little bit of modification here, right? We even see that for some of the energy deep within divine union, one person's opinion versus another's, they may feel a little bit, I want to say even at sometimes oppositional. But what do these energies do? They utilize that to find that happy medium. For the energy right now coming into divine union, a lot of that work, as it were, and this is that reaffirmation of what I said. This is a lot of the energy right now that is almost saying to one another, if someone doesn't understand like the full breadth of the overwhelm, if that becomes something that feels like they take it energetically personally, well, it's almost like the energy saying, let their judgment guide your judgment. Like, let their judgment guide your judgment, because that's almost the energy of utilizing that path of observation and recognition that feels like it builds a lot of insight in the process. While for masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union, this is the recognition point I'm seeing even now. If this is energy that is moving forward in some kind of modality of commitment, either one of two different things is occurring. Either this is energy that is closing off cycles from the past in the moment that they're receiving something that they never received from those past connections, that's giving them that sense of deepening of perspective on what those things were. Or this is energy that is feeling that expansion point in sharing this to others. And again, it's the same message that we saw for the energy within the divine union. If there's a moment where you share to someone your joy and they don't reflect it back, it changes your own energetic perspective on something, but it also helps you feel reaffirmed in your own committed judgment of something, right? It almost like reamplifies one's own pathwork of determination in the modality of experiencing and sharing something and not feeling someone that's able to inhabit it in the same vibration. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now. This is why we see even now, even if these are energies right now, I have to say, there's energy right now in separation. If there are some kind of hurdles that are blocking some kind of new energetic connection, the real key is how well someone is articulating through it. Because if these are energies that are just receiving some kind of excuse, and that's all there is to it, I can almost see a lot of the energy saying, well, this is just a repetition of the past. Again, potentially coming into that pathwork of assumption. But again, if these are energies that are utilizing the power of clarification, observation, curiosity, trying to keep someone on the same energetic page, then this is the energy that even in that modality right now, we see and experience that feeling of a real connection that is forming, because it doesn't require something to be energetically perfect all the time. It requires the ability to articulate and to communicate through a difficulty. Because this is the energy that recognizes that when we move together, there's always going to be difficulties. There's always going to be hurdles, but that shouldn't foster a lack of communication in the process. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now, between our Six of Pentacles in its upright in combination with our Three of Pentacles in its upright. I'm glad to see upright pentacles here, because our last reading, we didn't have a one. We didn't have a single pentacle that was in its upright. Clarification coming through right now. I got to stop talking before I drop the cards. We've got here our Ten of Pentacles in its reversal. A lot of that, listen, there's still a lot of these cards here. There's still a lot of these cards here that we saw in our last reading. The combination of the Ten of Pentacles in its reversal, a combination of the Wheel of Fortune in its reversal, the combination of the Ten of Cups in its reversal. A lot of these are still talking and navigating through external frustrations that are creating some hurdles right now as it relates to the direction that you're hoping to move towards. What is the energy right now in separation doing? The energy in separation is, again, reaffirming to themselves the aspect and aspiration that situations and circumstances do not change people, they reveal people. So being able to recognize and understand that, even here, that ability to communicate through any of those potential hurdles. We see even now, like, that's that moment that, again, builds that bridge, feels that sense of energetic support, or articulates and feels like that is the steadying of the status quo. So we see even now that for a lot of that energy in separation, that modicum, I want to say that modicum of patience, if you will, that has its limitation point, a lot of it right here, it's like that sense of understanding, but the understanding within limits. So we see even now, like, a lot of that work is being facilitated. But even here in separation, we see a lot of potential beautiful connections are forming, because the stability through which one is operating through an energetic hurdle is almost reaffirming to the energy within that situation or circumstance what they can expect from an energetic counterpart when things are difficult, that reaffirms their own commitment to being able to recognize that there's something that they're giving a little bit of patience towards. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is coming into divine union, a lot of this work that we see at this time has to do with the energy that is experiencing a modality wherein they're solidifying, they're building deeper into an energetic commitment process, but at the same time, they recognize that that may create some sense of volatility in relationality to how it affects the energy around them. Some of them may already be navigating some of that. Some of it may be interpersonal. Some of it may just be the interpersonal feeling about something from the past that you're building upon, having experienced something in a better sense in the present. Like, this is almost the energy that's coming into a state of healing that's now like reaffirming their own energetic commitment towards what they had to heal from. For others right now coming into divine union, this could be the modality of kind of sharing your news of moving into a deepening commitment state with those around you. And if there's that moment that it creates volatility, a lot of that could be redefining what may be experienced from a positive in the moment that you feel like you're sharing positive news towards someone and they're not receiving it in the same capacity through which you're experiencing it. What is the energy coming into divine union doing at this time? They're navigating through that together. Masculine and feminine energy deep within the divine union right now. A lot of this energy deep within the divine union right now is just, I want to say, there's a little bit of this feeling of energetic exhaustion in relationality to how much you're giving outside of the energetic union. But this is also that modality, if these are energies that are working on healing interpersonal relationships around them at this time. There's that modality of understanding that's almost coming through here for the energy deep within the divine union that almost articulates and says, if you're navigating something that is difficult and someone is reflecting the fact that they'll always take it energetically personally, maybe they've shown something to you that is valuable, important, that is going to help deepen and solidify your own commitment in relationality to what you're building going forward from this point. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Hierophant in combination with our Judgment card. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Fool and its reversal. So what's really interesting, I just have to point this out right now. There's a lot of energetic patience that is being reflected right now for the energy that is deep within the divine union frequency. Because that modality of I want to say, like, there's almost this, like, there's, like, I see even now, like, the energy deep within the divine union frequency. It's like there's this huge list. It's like this huge list of what they're hoping to achieve and what they're trying to do. And so this is almost the energy within the divine union that almost articulates and says, if the energy surrounding the divine union isn't recognizing like what those prior commitments are, like what the shape of that energetic commitment is, like with that sense of not taking it personally, this is almost the energy that says the situation has solved itself, if you will, right? It's like the situation has solved itself because it's that volatility or someone becoming overly reactive that almost is the articulation point of the energy surrounding the divine union that might not necessarily have the patience to collaborate with the energy within the union. So we see even now that a lot of that is that hope or aspiration that if someone is too volatile and is moving away from the divine union, taking something energetically personally, that given time on their own, like on their own journey, they'll come to better understand what they're experiencing. So that's why we see even now, like, a lot of that energy within the divine union exercises a certain degree of patience in relationality to not becoming reactive when they experience something in that modality, but almost, again, leans in to the variable of time, feeling like time is effectively working with them as opposed to against them. While for masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union, a lot of that same energetic feeling is occurring right now. But the thing about that is, this is either the reaffirmation of the commitment towards what you're moving into. There's just a lot of energy right now. If this is energy that's moving deeper into divine union and it's creating volatility around them as they go, this is an energy that's saying, oh, maybe this isn't the right direction. This is the energy that's almost putting that as a point of observation and saying, if that's energy that if you're building into a strong, solid commitment with counterpart, and it's creating volatility in energy around you, this is almost the energy that feels that sense of security and stability as it relates to the direction that they're headed towards, simply because it almost feels like it's reaffirming how much safety and security that they feel within that energetic union that is being articulated by the energy that's taking it personally from without. While masculine and feminine energy right now that is in separation, this is why we see a level or degree of patience, but only to a particular limit. Because for the energy right now that is in separation, what's really happening here is it's not so much a question of patience, it has to do with a question of priority. So if these are energies that are just coming into connection with one another, and potentially the masculine has other things that are pulling their attention away from the connection, it's not so much the fact that is occurring, but how well the energy is able to communicate through those hurdles This is the energy that in that modality feels like they're kind of building into a space or place of getting to know someone better, even in the midst of them navigating something difficult. That becomes the difference between someone saying like, I need to step back from something versus I'm moving towards you. I just need a little bit of additional time. I just need to take care of some things first. I just need to navigate this, and I'm going to articulate you and let you know where I am on that journey every step of the way. It's a difference between like putting down the walkie-talkie and picking it up. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Judgment card in combination with our Ten of Pentacles in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with the Four of Pentacles in its, Four of Wands, pardon me, in its upright. Because what we're effectively seeing right now for the energy and separation, what is the demarcation factor if there's something here that feels like it's being delayed? If there's something that feels like it's suddenly come up? That amplification of being able to quickly reaffirm when that next date is. Like recommitting to that energetic date. That is that moment that for the energy and separation feels like it is qualifying, because it is a difference between someone using an energetic excuse versus holding an energetic standard. So we see even now that for a lot of the energy in that modality, being able to register and recognize and understand that is the ability of communicating through it. That helps to define and discern that sense of saying, I understand that even if something isn't perfect, that things are still moving in a progressive way, as opposed to feeling like you're kind of being left energetically hanging. While for masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union right now, a lot of this energy, I want to say, this is potentially that modality of articulating and telling others the fact that you're moving deeper into that energetic commitment. And if there's that modality where, and again, that either creates, that this is either creating for some of the energy right now, receiving that in such a big way from someone, is giving you a lot of clarity and context on everything that came before it that was not that. Or this is energy that in the moment of articulating to others what their plans are, if that creates volatility in those around you, this is the energy that almost feels like that's a reamplification of the direction they're headed in. Because that's almost the energy that feels like there's someone that's like taking something personally in the moment that someone else is experiencing joy, right? When someone takes something personally in a moment that someone's experiencing joy, that can be very informative and it can be very reaffirming in relationality. Even though it may feel a little devastating to experience, it doesn't necessarily move you off of your energetic path. It just gives you a sense of like I want to say, frustration or sadness in the process. While for the energy right now, deep within the divine union frequency, this is the energy that basically is articulating to themselves and saying the things that are moving with us are moving on our timeline. That anything that's progressing forward in this way has to recognize the patience that's required in order to facilitate that. Because we see even now, it's almost like the energy within divine union, if they feel like they're overextended, this is the energy that recognizes that other energy that shares that same vibration will also be feeling like that and will understand. Continuing to get clarification, final card for today's spread between the Fool card in its reversal and our Four of Wands in its upright. Clarification coming through right now with the Temperance card. I'm not surprised to be ending the card reading with this card today, because we saw so much about that factor of time coming into play to help articulate the difference between a momentary inconvenience or something that is always inhabiting that modality to a certain extent. Now, for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is deep within the divine union frequency, this is a reamplification of a lot of the work that I see that this energy is utilizing as it relates to anything that they're experiencing that feels like a hurdle. This isn't energy that feels a hurdle and decides to redirect their direction. This is the energy that almost again applies that sense of feeling like time is on their side. So if something feels like it's delayed, that's the energy that says, almost articulates and says, that's something that we just have to be patient and consistent and persistent upon. Whereas if this is energy that is feeling like they're their own sense of overwhelm or their own need to slow things down or their own need of needing and requiring time creates volatility in other connections. This is the energy that almost reaffirms and says the energy that moves in alignment with us will never take that recognition point of the time that is needed as a point of taking something personally, because they themselves will also be inhabiting that same modality. While masculine and feminine energy that's coming into divine union, they're also falling a lot into the same modality right now in relationality to feeling that sense of commitment, that excitement and amplification of the direction they're headed in, but not doing it hastily. Doing it in a very slow, meticulous, thoughtful way. Because again, this isn't energy that's rushing into a deepening of a commitment with the hope that it may change the energy between them and the counterpart. This is the energy that says, what I feel for you, it doesn't require that. It goes beyond words, and I know that you feel it too. It's good to have those possibilities in the future, but it also allows that like easement in the process, because it's that inevitability of knowing that it's going in that direction that doesn't require you to run towards it. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is in separation, this is requiring a little bit more of that energetic discernment, if you will. This is requiring a little bit more of that conscientiousness. This is requiring a little bit more of that patience, but the patience with a limitation vector, particularly if there's something here about the feeling of plans being delayed or someone needing to step back from something because they're overwhelmed. The rapidity in someone being able to recalibrate, to replan, the immediacy of that occurring is what's helping the energy recognize if this is something that is truly building into a connection, that even in the moment of difficulty, it's even now reaffirming and building deeper into an energetic commitment process through the clarity through which it's experienced, versus the energy that may be departing from a situation or circumstance, because if it feels like the only thing that's consistent is the inconsistency, then this is the energy that almost feels like that sense of saying, I see and recognize that this doesn't feel so much like this is more the mode someone is always inhabiting, as opposed to being kind of that momentary situation or scenario. Bottom of the deck on this reading right now, 8 of Wands in its upright. I'm going to say it again. Now is not the time to make assumptions. Now is not the time. I've been saying this for days, my friends. Now is not the time to jump into conclusions. If you have a question, ask the question. Don't just make the assumption. Ask the question to try to get the clarity point. Because we see even now a lot of that energy going through some overwhelm. This is almost energy that doesn't want to put someone out by articulating what is occurring, but being able to move into that modality of introspection, that modality of curiosity. That's like that question of recognizing that when you're in a good alignment with someone, there's no question that doesn't have an answer, even if it's a difficult one. But it requires you to kind of take that step forward and ask the question in the process. That is our daily collective read for today. I want to thank you guys so much for being here and experiencing it. Just a reminder, if you would like to book a private reading with me, you can book one on my website, graystrega.com. My private readings are done over video, and if you are a subscriber to my TikTok, you can take 10% off any of my services when you pay. Just mention your subscriber name at the point of payment. Please keep in mind, if you book a private reading with me, it is a 2-step process. You have to book the reading, you have to pay for the reading. Please make sure you do both if you'd like to have that reading. Most importantly, please remember that I will never, ever, 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 ever reach out to you for a private reading. I will never DM you. I will never PM you. I will never slide into your inbox and tell you I have a very important message that only I can deliver. The only way you can book a reading with me is if you book one on my website, so I encourage you to do it there. Also, just a few updates before we start our private personal readings for today. First and foremost, we are continuing our tarot classes this evening with an exploration into the Empress card. If you would like to become a part of that class program, simply head over to my Substack, graystrega.substack.com. Link is in my bio. Your paid subscription to my Substack will grant you entry and access into our live class tonight, which is occurring at 6 p.m. PST, 9 p.m. Eastern. You will also have access to all of our previous recordings and classwork. So if you would like to get, if you might not have time to catch up tonight, but you'll have ample opportunity to do so in time for our next class. You'll also have access to a one-on-one chat with me to ask any questions that you may have in relation to anything that we are studying. If you become a founding member to my Substack, not only will you receive a discount on the full year's worth of classes, but you'll also receive a one-on-one mentorship reading with me, wherein I will assess where you are in your own personal tarot journey, and I'll give you the best insights in terms of how to utilize that classwork to the best of your advantage going forward. One of the things I really tried to do in these classes was make them so that they be useful to both the absolute novice tarot reader as well as the seasoned reader. There's something definitely there for everyone. So thank you. I'm so excited if you're joining us tonight, and hopefully I'll see you there. And even if you don't become a paid subscriber to my Substack, I would encourage you to follow me there to stay up to date on any new offerings, events. I also post my weekly newsletter there that gives you an update on when I'm going to be live and my live schedule. You'll also get up to date on giveaways. We actually just announced the winner to our June giveaway. Congratulations to the winner. You can head over to my Substack to see who won, as well as the person who referred them to take that giveaway. And I'm very excited to announce that we're now starting the giveaway for July. If you would like to become a part of that giveaway, head over to the link tree in my bio. There is a 2-minute travel survey there. Filling out that survey will grant you an entry into the giveaway, but if you'd like to increase your chances of winning, go ahead and forward that survey to a friend, because when I pull the winner, I'll be giving away a free reading, not only to the winner, but to whoever referred them. So thank you if you already entered, and I wish you the best of luck in winning this month's free reading. Finally, I've got a few new offerings. I'm very happy to be offering my clientele at this time. On top of my standard life path readings, I am now offering mentorship classes. These classes can be purchased on an individual level, or if you'd like to purchase a full month's worth of classes, you can purchase a package of 4 45-minute classes, 1 per week for the course of a month. These can be focused on any area or course of study that you are interested in pursuing. I take a very limited number of students for this reason. Also, for my clients that are seeking weekly, more consistent tarot support, I'm very happy to be offering weekly tarot insight packages, a package of 4 30-minute readings, 1 per week, so that you can stay more consistent on where you are each week on your journey. I want to thank you guys so much for being here today and sharing in these messages, and we will do this again